Hello everyone, Ember Power here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different in that I'm going to be looking at Pokemon for Super Smash Bros. 6. So I don't really want to go into debate at all about should Pokemon have more representation in Smash, should there be any more reps at all in the future games. But this video is purely supposed to be about speculation and what Pokemon could make it in if they ever did a Smash Bros. 6. So, of course, there is some ground rules just before we get going very quickly. This will be a mixture of fan favorites and personal choices because honestly, I feel like if I just did personal choices, people would just call biased. And if I just did fan favorites, then the video would be a bit boring, honestly, and a bit too predictable. So, not every fighter will therefore be a likely inclusion in Smash 6, and I will be listing pros and cons for each of them, although multiple of these will, of course, overlap. And the most likely rep at the end of the day is, of course, a starter from the latest gen, primarily a grass type. And we don't know the future of Smash, of course, so we don't know if Smash 6 is going to happen. I will assume for the time being that it probably will in some capacity because the game is just so popular. And it just makes so much money that Smash 6 feels sort of inevitable with the next console. But honestly, Sakurai does need a big break, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a long time before we see a next installment in the series. So for the 10th Pokemon that I went for is actually going to be Machamp, which is a bit of an odd choice, but he's literally a pro wrestler. He has 4 unique arms, which could mean potential for inputs or creative moves. He is a fighting rep, which the game currently doesn't have, and a Dynamax comeback mechanic is possible, or at least for the final smash or for some of the special moves. However, the cons of Machamp are fairly obvious. He's not next gen, he's another Kantomon, and Incineroar does feel the wrestler niche. And honestly, I feel like Incineroar beat out Machamp as a spot in Ultimate, not just because Decidueye was beat out by Incineroar for not being a wrestler, but because Machamp is just an older Pokemon and Incineroar was from a latest game. So that's why I think, Machamp wasn't even considered for Ultimate. I think he could be a really cool fighter, honestly. I can't actually remember if he's a Pokeball or not. I feel like he could be. If he's not, then if he is a Pokeball, then I'm sorry, I forgot about that. But yeah, Machamp, really cool option. I think he could be honestly a really cool fighter, but the odds of him actually getting into Smash at this point feel very, very low. So next up though is we've got Gengar. So I think Gengar is, both a fan favorite and a popular choice I've written here, very bad. But, unique attacks aside from Shadow Ball, which is kind of used on Mewtwo and Lucario. I think he has something similar. It's like Aura Sphere or something like that. He does have a Pokken tolerant moveset. I'm honestly not sure if there's a ruling is if to why if you get into Pokken tournament, you can't get into Smash Bros. But honestly, because Pokken tournament is a fighting game, and we had reps from Street Fighter, Fatal Fury, Tekken. I think it kind of makes sense that Pokken tournament could make it into Smash. So therefore, I don't think this is much of a hindrance as some people might think it is. But either way, Pokken tournament moveset to draw from. There's also the Dynamax and Mega Evolution forms of Gengar, which is super interesting because a lot of Pokemon in this list either have a Mega Evolution or a Dynamax to make them more interesting. Gengar has both, so a lot of potential to draw from to create a moveset. So I think it could be really cool. Also, visually very striking and different in each of the different forms. The cons, however, is that he's not next gen. If floaty, Mewtwo fills a psychic niche. So he is kind of similar to Mewtwo, funnily enough, in maybe how he would play, very floaty. I do think Gengar would be a lot bigger than Mewtwo, maybe the size of Ridley potentially, and still be, a lightweight. So how many floaty characters do you really want in the game, especially another one with Psychic, with Shadow Ball, because that's kind of like Gengar's signature move, really. So yeah, I think Gengar is kind of cool, but honestly, I don't think he has a very strong chance in the next game. Now, just going over some personal favorites. I don't want to spend too long on these because I know, of course, the personal favorites for a reason. They're not going to be super popular with everyone. But I do think some of these could be cool fighters at the very least. Like Regigigas could be a cool heavyweight. You could also draw on the powers of the other Regis. There's even Garbodor down there, which honestly I think is a bit I don't see Smash Bros. Wanting to include a Pokemon made of literal garbage, but could be cool either way. Chandelure also has a Pokken tolerant moveset, but again is a psychic floaty Pokemon. Banette's in a similar position. I think Mimikyu's honestly a Pokeball in Smash Ultimate, which kind of sucks because it really hinders Mimikyu's chance of ever making it in, but could be a really cool addition if it was. Shuckle is obviously just a meme pick along with Gumi. Tyrantrum and Dodrio I think could be interesting along with Gorgeous. Dodrio especially because of the 3 heads, but how do you even make a moveset out of that? I don't know. They did for Piranha Plant, but hey, Piranha Plant I guess does interesting things in the games, but Yeah, moving on from personal favorites, let me know if you think any of these would actually stand a chance of making it into Smash 6. But yeah, it's always a fun inclusion. Number 8, though, is going to be Garchomp. So Garchomp is got a lot of pros, actually. He's built like a fighter. He's got a Pokémon moveset. He's Mega Evolution. And he is pretty popular. I wrote potential popularity over here because I was like, I think Garchomp's popular, but I don't know how popular. He's also, unfortunately, not next gen. He is quite old. Is he popular enough? And he would be another dragon along with Charizard. So not quite Dragonite level dragon, but still kind of a dragon. So I'm really not sure if Garchomp has the highest chance. He would be a cool Pokemon, honestly, and I do think a lot of people like him, but we'll have to see if Garchomp really has a good chance in the end. Next up, though, is that we have Darkrai. So Darkrai, I think, has a very unique look. He could have sleep-based moves. He is a fan favorite, so it's really cool. Unfortunately, he's not next gen. He would be another photo Pokemon, and he isn't a Pokeball, sadly, currently. So that's a bit of a shame because I do think Darkrai is a super unique Pokemon. Like, just look at his design. He's very visually striking. I think he'd be some very cool moves. Unfortunately, though, I don't think Darkrai has the best chance of making Smash now. If you maybe say a few years ago, I would have said yes, for Smash 4 or something. But Darkrai, unfortunately, I don't think has the biggest shot, which is a shame because, again, he is super unique and super cool. Next up, though, is Sceptile. So, Sceptile, it's not like a personal favorite of mine. I personally don't like Sceptile that much outside of the TCG, really. But there is some decent pros to Sceptile. He's a grass type starter, obviously. He is popular enough. He's a natural fighter, like he looks like a fighter, which is cool. Pokken Tournament moveset as well, and a Mega Evolution. So there's a lot of things you can draw from to create Sceptile's moveset. You can also use his tail to great effect. There's also a lot of signature grass moves that could be used here. So I do think Sceptile is a pretty cool choice. Unfortunately, he's not next gen, and Meowscarada exists, sadly, came out more recently, he's a more popular Pokemon. And Sceptile is a bit old, so all you Sceptile fans out there, I get why Sceptile would have been like a really cool choice for maybe Smash 4 or something, but unfortunately, I don't think Sceptile has a really strong chance of making it into Smash 6. Next up, though, is we have a bit of an interesting pick, in my opinion, and that's going to be Zygarde. So originally, Zygarde was much higher up on this list, and then I bumped him down to 5th place because I thought there's just no way anyone's going to be happy if Zygarde makes it into like 2nd place. But honestly, I think Zygarde over Buzzwole would be more interesting, funnily enough. I do think Zygarde has a lot of cool potential for a moveset. The pros, of course, being that the fact he has 3 forms, technically 4 or 5 if you count the cellular or gene forms. So I do think he would have a very unique design, between the dog, the snake thing, I want to say, like slug snake thing, as the 50% form. Then 100%, of course, is like this massive tank, would be probably like a heavyweight, I guess. So you could like do a Pokemon trainer thing or a Sheik Zelda thing, I guess, from Smash Brawl, where you like downbeat into a different form. I think that could be really cool. Unfortunately, though, Zygarde is not next gen. He's a bit old and he's not super popular. There is way more popular choices on this list. Even Pokemon we just looked at are more popular than Zygarde, unfortunately. So could compensate for a lack of Pokemon Z, which I still think they should do and release. But I do think I have a soft spot for Zygarde as well. It was like a first EX turn that I bought and stuff like that. So I do have a soft spot for this card. Not this card. This Pokemon. It's Pokemon. But he is cool. I do think he would have a unique move set. Unfortunately, though, I don't think his odds of getting in are actually that high. Next up, though, is we have Decidueye. So, of his pros is that there's a Syrian and normal form, which is really cool. He has a strong focus on a bow, which honestly I think would be super annoying to play against. But, a lot of people have said this would make for a very unique move set, which I kind of agree with. And he was considered for Ultimate. Sakurai did say in an interview that Decidueye was considered, but unfortunately Incineroar beat out Decidueye because of, the wrestler niche was filled in with Incineroar. Why he couldn't find like another wrestler character from a different game and then put Decidueye in, I don't know. But then we wouldn't have gotten Incineroar, which is a super fun character. So, either way it works, I guess. Unfortunately for the cons, he's not the next gen grass type. He is projectile heavy moveset, which I can see some people not liking at all. And not making to Ultimate could be a bad sign for Decidueye. Like Blastoise was apparently considered for Brawl and then didn't make it in because Charizard was more popular. So, yeah, I'm not sure if Decidueye has like the best chance, but I still think he could be a cool pick. I just have like the shiny Decidueye there in the picture I've noticed for some reason. But yeah, Decidueye I think could be a cool choice. Visually, he looks awesome, but yeah, I don't think Decidueye has the biggest chance of making it in. Unfortunately, Decidueye might be outclassed by another popular grass type, that being, of course, Meowscarada. Pro is very popular with a particular audience, you know the one in mind, not going to get into details. Is a grass type. No Sword should rep an ultimate, surprisingly, not even in the DLC. And an interesting moveset with like the bouquet and all the rest of like the dancing and stuff, the masquerade theme. I think that's kind of cool. Cons, however, is that Meowscarada is not a next gen grass starter, so it's not from the latest gen, which will be drawn from for Smash 6 theoretically. A little too similar to Lucario, probably not, but still. I kind of wrote this because I think visually, Meowscarada looks a bit similar to Lucario, like the way just the design overall is a bit similar. Is that just me? Like maybe that's just me, but like I just think it's something odd. Like Meowscarada is just a bit similar to Lucario, and I think visually would be not. Also, I'm not a fan of like Pokemon that are overly humanoid. Rather, they looked really weird, like Thworm and stuff. So, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Meowscarada, as you can probably tell. But yeah, I think this could be a cool rep nonetheless, and is super popular, of course. So next up is we have Tinkaton. Originally, Tinkaton was like a much lower on this list, but honestly, having seen how people rave about Tinkaton online, kind of felt that I needed to put it higher. So pros is got a unique hammer-based attacks, aside from my boy King DDD, of course. Very tight moves, which is interesting, very popular, and a cool design. So what's the bad sides about Tinkaton? Is he's not next gen, and what would you do for recovery? Admittedly, these are like not really the biggest issues in the world, especially recovery is like something they could obviously work out and implement a game however they see fit, especially for characters who've never had a recovery, which is why I think Captain Toad should still make it in. But still, pros I do think outweigh the cons here, and I could obviously see Tinkaton making it into the next game. Surprised Tinkaton wasn't considered for like DLC for Ultimate. Maybe it was and it was left out at the last minute, but hey, could be an interesting choice. Just before we get into our number one pick, though, there is some honorable mentions to go over. Dragonite felt kind of natural because of the dragon-based moveset. It feels very like the theme of Smash. Unfortunately, I don't think Dragonite has the best chance because, we have Charizard as a playable fighter technically, and that's just another dragon that's more popular, so I don't think Dragonite has the biggest chance. Galarian Surfetched on the bottom left corner there, which honestly I think is a really unique choice, especially because he's modeled like a knight, which is kind of cool. And I think there is at least one YouTuber who's done a theoretical moveset for his Pokemon, so if you want to go check that out, I'll try and remember to leave that in the description, but if I don't, it's definitely on YouTube for you to watch. Next up, though, we have Ceruledge, which I think could be cool. Kind of like, it was between Scizor and Ceruledge, and I just went for Ceruledge because I think the design is just a bit cooler. We've also got Iron Jugulus, which is a bit of a weird choice, to be honest, but I think one of the Paradox Pokemon would be a cool choice. We do have Gargankel, which, again, a bit of a heavyweight, and the Salt Minecraft Pokemon, but you know what, I think Gargankel is cool enough. Also got Buzzwole and Zoroark. I do believe Zoroark is a Pokeball in Ultimate, which kind of sucks, so don't think Zoroark has the best chance of getting in now. Buzzwole has a similar situation. He's from the Sun and Moon era, so I think the best time for him would have been like DLC for Smash 4. But yeah, don't think Buzzwole has the biggest chance now, but still, I prefer Zygarde anyway, but personal preference at the end of the day. Then the number one pick, I actually went for Gholdengo, which is a bit of a strange choice. But I was thinking Gholdengo, but like between Gholdengo and Gimmighoul, I think they could have a very cool moveset, very unique design. He is popular enough, of course. Unfortunately, he's just not next gen, and I just don't think that he has the biggest chance of making it in now. But I do think he'll probably be like a Pokeball or something. He is pretty cool, and I just I like his design. I think he's kind of unique. He is a bit goofy and a bit weird, but at the same time, I do think he would be a pretty popular choice if he made it in. But yeah, it's been Ember Power. That's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Let me know, of course, what would you put in Smash? What would be your number one Pokemon pick? And of course, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think down below. And yeah, thank you for watching.